Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, Math Made Easy with Terry in 10 minutes. We're going to talk about addition and subtraction of matrices. I'm going to show you how do we add and subtract matrices. Please make sure you review the previous video because I've talked about the types of matrices, I've talked about the annotations and notations for it. I also talked about some of the introduction. I gave a quick overview about metrics, so it's important you do this before coming to this video. All right, so before I proceed, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It's very important you do so that when I post new videos, you will be the first person to know. All right, so let's get straight into this. So how do you add and subtract matrices? Here, there are three rules to keep in mind. Okay, there are three rules to keep in mind. So there are three rules or three steps. So I prefer to say three rules or three steps. Now, the first thing is that the two metrics that you want to add together must be in the same order. Does that make sense? So for instance, you cannot add a 2 by 2, you can add a 2 by 2 to another 2 by 2, but you can't add a 2 by 2 to another 2 by 4. Okay? So the first thing is that the two matrices, or let me just say the matrices to be added must be in the same order. Now, this is very crucial, all right? So before you start solving, they must be in the same order. So let's pick for example, okay? So if A is equal to a 2 by 2, right? And B is also another 2 by 2, then we can now find what? A plus B. Very good. Now, but if, for instance, we have X is a 2 by 2 matrix, so that means it has two rows and two columns, and Y is a 3 by 2, for instance. Now, X plus Y is not what? Possible. So that means before you start, you should make sure that they are in the same what? In the same order. Good. So when you keep that in mind and you know they are in the same order, then you can now proceed to solve the question. So number two, after you've ensured that you've done that, you have to then add and subtract corresponding elements. So number two, you then add or subtract corresponding elements. Okay? So you then add and subtract corresponding elements. So that means, for instance, you what I'm saying is that remember the annotation. So you then add if you have A, okay, okay. So A we have it as A11, A12. Then we have A21, A22. For instance, this is a 2 by 2 matrix. Okay, talked about this in the previous video. Then we have B. B is also, we have it as B11, B12. Then we now have B21, and we have B22. That's another 2 by 2 matrix. So you can see in this case, both of them are in the same order, so we can add them. So what we are saying is that if you're adding A plus B, what you do, you add the ones in the same what? Order. So that means it's going to become A11 plus B11. Then you're going to add the other one, A12 plus B12. So you're adding the corresponding element. So the same thing is going to be A21 plus B21. Then you now have A22 plus B22. All right. So similarly, also when you're subtracting, so it's A minus B, same thing. It's only the corresponding elements. It's going to be A11 minus B11. Then you have A12 minus B12. Then you have A21 minus B21. And we have A22 minus what? B22. Okay, so you keep on doing it and you keep going. So if it's a 4x4, you do it for all the elements and you keep on doing that. And that's what I meant by you have to add or subtract the corresponding element. And then number 3, you now finally end it with what? By simplifying, or you solve it. Okay, so then you then simplify. That's it. That's how you add or subtract matrices. Okay. Okay, so let's pick an example. So for example, let's say we have this one here. So we're told, number 1, if A is equal to, we're told is 4, 3, 4, 2, 1, 5, and we're told, and B is equal to 3, 1, 4, and 2, 3, 5. The question is saying that they want us to find A plus B. Okay, so they want us to find A plus B. So the first thing we need to do in step 1, we need to first check that the metrics are in the same order. So we need to check. So what order is A? So A is a what? 2 by 3 matrix. Are you seeing it? A is a 2 by 3 matrix. Now B is also a what? 2 by 3 matrix. So because they are both in the same order, 2 by 3, so therefore we can now have A plus B is possible. Is that making sense? So before you add, you need to be sure that they are in the same order. So now we can now do that. So we can now add them together. So therefore, we're going to have, so step 2, we're going to add them. So step 2 now, we can now say, because they're in the same order, or before that, let me just write this again so that it'll be easier for me when I scroll down. So we have A is 4, 3, 4, 2, 1, 5. So we can now say we have 4, 3, 4, and 2, 1, 5, plus this one we have is 3, 1, 4, 2, 3, 5. So we have 3, 1, 4, 2, 3, 5. Okay, so because of that, we can then add this. So we'll go to step 2. Step 2 says we need to add the corresponding element. So step 2, we need to add the corresponding elements. So let's go. So we're going to add each of the corresponding elements. So it's going to be 4. So we're going to add the first one. We're going to do 4 and 3. Okay, so it's going to give us 4 plus 3. The next element is 3 and 1. So that will give us 3 plus 1. The next element is 4 and 4. So that will give us 4 plus 4. The next one, we have 2 and 2. So give us 2 plus 2. The next one will be 1 and 3. That will be 1 plus 3. And the last one is 5 and 5. And give you 5 plus 5. Okay, so we've done that. Then step 3 is that we have to simplify. So step 3, we're going to have it as, we're going to add it. 4 plus 3 will give you 7. 3 plus 1 will give you 4. 4 plus 4 will give you 8. 2 plus 2 will give you 4. 1 plus 3 will give you 4. And 5 plus 5 will give you what? 10. So therefore, this is equal to A plus B. All right, good. And that's the answer for that. I think maybe I can take one more question that might involve subtraction. Maybe let's just take one more before we go to the next video. Number 2, we're told if x is equal to 3, 4, 2, 3, 1 minus 2, and y is equal to minus 2, 1, 3, 0, minus 1, 2. We're now told to find x minus y. Okay, x minus y. So the first step, step 1, we need to check the order of each of them. So x is what type of matrix? So this is going to be 1, 2. So we have it as 1, 2, 3. So that's 3 rows, right? Good. Then get that cleaned up. Then how many columns is this? So we have 1, 2. So it's a 3 by 2 matrix. Are you seeing it? All right, so let us check for y. So y, what type of order is y? So we do the same thing for y. How many rows? 1, 2, 3. We have 3 rows, okay? So for y, we have 3 rows. So let's clean that out to check how many columns now. Now for the columns, we have 1, 2. So that's also a 3 by 2 matrix. So you can see, because they are both a 3 by 2 matrix, so therefore, we can now say x plus y, we can add this, is possible. Is that making sense? So because they are both in the same order, we can add it. So we can now say, we then have to add. So we're going to add 3, 4. Take this down a bit. Okay. So 3, 4, 2, 3, 1 minus 2 plus, we add the other one. And the other one is minus 2, 1. So that'll give us minus 2, 1, 3, 0, and minus 1, 2. So that means we need to add both of them. Good. Now the next thing, step 2, we need to add each of the elements. So, sorry, we're not adding this time. I think we're subtracting. Oh, I beg your pardon. So this should be subtracting, not adding, okay? So this is subtracting, and this is subtracting, because the question is finding x minus y, all right? So we're meant to subtract. So step 2 now, we then have to subtract each of the elements, okay? So we're gonna go, we'll start with the first one. We're gonna go with 3 and minus 2, so it's gonna become 3 minus 2. The next one is 4 and 1. Going to give us 4 minus 1. The next one is 2 and 3. So it's going to give us 2 minus 3. And the next one is going to be 3 and 0. So it's going to give us 3 minus 0. The next one is 1 and minus 1. So it's going to be 1 minus 1. And this is going to give us minus 2 and 2. So minus 2 and 2. So it's going to give us minus 2, minus 2. Is that making sense? So that will give us that. So let's go. So what I always say, in order to make it easy for the next stage, you can further simplify this. So it's going to become minus times minus will give you plus. It's going to be 3 plus 2. Are you seeing it? 2 minus 3. And minus times minus will give you plus, 1 plus 1. The next one is that we have is going to be 4 minus 1, 3 minus 0, minus 2 minus 2. So we go to step 3 now. So step 3, we're going to add them together. So 3 plus 2 will give you 5. 2 minus 3 will give you minus 1. 1 plus 1 will give you what? 2. All right. So the next one, 4 minus 1 will give you what? 3. 3 minus 0 will give you 3. And minus 2 will give you minus 4. And this is going to be equal to x minus what? Y. Good. And that will be the answer for that. I'm just feeling a little bit happy, so I'm going to just throw in one more example again. So this is number 1, and that was number 2. So I'm going to throw in one more. So like I always say, you can pause the video and see if you can solve it. So now we're told if m is equal to 3, 4, 6, 8, 1, 9, okay? And n is equal to 2, 3, 8, 4, 6, 5. We're now told find m plus n and m minus n. So you can pause the video and try and see if you can solve this question here. Now, this is one of the trick questions that you can get in some exams, okay? So now we have to do the first one. So we're going to start with the first one, m plus n. So step 1, we need to check if they are in the same order. So we know m is going to be equal to, this is a 2, number of rows is 2, so it's going to be 2 by, then we can check the number of columns now. So the number of columns for this is 1, 2, 3. So a 2 by 3 matrix, okay? Now, let us check for, get this off. Let us check the type of matrix is n. So for n now, what type of matrix, or what's the order of that matrix for n? So we have it as number of rows is 1, 2, 3, and that is 3 multiplied by, or by, not multiplied by. So we have it, bring this out, and the columns, we have 1 and we have 2, so 3 by 2. So you can see they are not in the same order. You can see the first one is not the same order as the second one, and because of that, it is not possible to add this. So remember, I told you that for you to add, they have to be in the same order. So remember, I told you in the steps that before you do, they have to be in the same order, right? But now when you look at it, m is a 2 by 3, and n is a 2 by 3. So therefore, m plus n not possible. And that is the solution. Are you seeing it? So the same thing you do for the m minus n. So because m minus n, like what we said, because they are not in the same order, so therefore, since m is equal to a 2 by 3, are you seeing it? And n is equal to a 3 by 2, the same thing, because they are not in the same order, so therefore, m minus n is not what? It's not possible. And that's the answer for that. Okay, so it's very important and key that you make sure that the questions are, the matrices that you have are in the same order before you proceed to solve. Okay, all right, that is that for that, and that is that for how do you add or subtract matrices. Okay, so the next video I'm going to go to is going to be scalar multiplication of matrix. Okay, so we'll try that and in the next video. So I would advise that you click on the notification bell so that when I post the next video, you'll be first person to know. So I'll see you soon.